not apparently, may his soul rest in peace. Magistrate Clark took ill, I think, right after my son's coroner's inquest.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say, it appears as if nothing has been done. And we know he subsequently passed.
Okay. So, just for the benefit of myself and the listening audience and viewing audience, your son was involved in an altercation.
Yes.
This altercation resulted in him being physically hurt by several individuals.
Yes.
And subsequently died as a result.
Yes.
Thereafter, there was a coroner's inquest.
Correct.
And the coroner's inquest showed that your son was murdered.
Yes.
As a result of this altercation.
Yes.
The persons involved in the altercation, the alleged perpetrators, can they be identified, or have they been identified?
Yes.
They have been identified. When it was determined that your son died as a result of this altercation, are you saying that the police, because here at this point, I'm assuming this is the point where the police now goes and make an arrest, which they will then create a file to submit to the DPP and start the prosecution process, which would then lead to a murder trial?
Yeah, well, that is my understanding.
And
yeah.
You're saying that that has not been done some 2 years later?
Yes, but I'll say 1 year later, because the coroner's inquest, prior to the coroner's inquest, there was no arrest. But after the coroner's inquest, that is my understanding of what should have happened.
Your son died September 9th, 2023.
No, September 17th.
17th.
September 9th was when the incident took place, and he spent several days in a coma.
Okay. We are now 2 years down the road.
2 years.
From the time of his death. And now there have not been an arrest, and the perpetrators are walking free 2 years later and has not faced any consequence for their actions.
None.
Have you spoken to the now present acting commissioner of police, Mr. Jeffers?
Okay, I'm just going to jump back a little bit again, just so I can make sure my story or my recount of my son's death is in order, chronological order. After I spoke with Inspector Taylor, I contacted again the then commissioner's office. The secretary in turn put me on to the assistant commissioner. At that point, I was very, very, I don't know if it's defeated is the word. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I was drained. So I sat on the number for a little bit until I built up the courage to proceed again. In early January of this year, I reached out to the assistant commissioner. And while he knew of my son's death, he had no idea that a coroner's inquest into his death took place.
How is this possible? Isn't there a follow-up with, I mean, there it is, your son is involved in an altercation. I would like to believe that the police were called even during the time that he spent in the hospital. I would like to believe that the police was there conducting, that's the starting point of the investigation, and reports have to be documented and submitted so that this thing could be thoroughly investigated. It seemed like there has been a drop in the ball somewhere that has now allowed for this wide open space.
After our conversation, he did reach back out to me and indicated that he did make a few calls and my recount of the incident was correct.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, I was again informed of the process. That was in January of this year. We are now in September, and I still have not heard anything, seen anything, or received any communication from anybody. I had a very brief conversation with the now Commissioner of Police, Jeffers, who also wasn't aware of my son's situation, but has since promised to look into the matter so that the proceedings can take place. And this is why I'm here today. I want to say thank you to the general public as well, the support. They have done their part, because I think the police, if I remember correctly, told me they have some 23 witnesses. So the public did assist, and it's now for the police to do their part so that we can get some justice and some closure.
Mrs. Piper, I'm really sorry about this incident, and for me, this is a very painful subject matter as it highlights the pitfalls and the gaps in our justice system. Because I am struggling as I sit here across from you to understand how there can be such a public altercation with 23 witnesses, and clearly your son died as a result of this most unfortunate incident. And 2 years later, with all those witnesses and the conclusion of an inquest which clearly points to murder, that no one have been arrested. And especially that we have just opened a cold case file, and I had the privilege of doing my research and I saw your son's name. And I'm particularly shocked that the upper hierarchy was not aware of this situation. I think this is a very straightforward case, and one which should lead to a very easy prosecution. So I am like you, very concerned. And again, if this more simple and straightforward case cannot be dealt with, how do you restore hope in the public with the other cold cases that may have more technical aspects to it? So clearly this is a situation that needs a lot of attention and an outcry. And I'm calling on the Attorney General to please provide us with answers as to why a case of this magnitude that is so simple and straightforward 2 years later has led to no arrests, no conviction, and no justice for the family of Mr. Piper. What does this say for our justice system? This is it's a mockery to the justice system of Antigua and Barbuda. So, Mr. Commissioner, please, Wade, who is now head of the new cold case files, we are calling on you to please answer these questions as it pertains to justice for our citizens. We have a grieving mother here who clearly is the one fighting for justice when it should be a system that fights on her behalf. Where does that leave us in terms of, one, accountability, and two, just justice being served? This is clearly a drop in the confidence of the public, and this certainly needs to be addressed. I'm calling on the Commissioner, I'm calling on the Attorney General and Minister of Public Safety to please address these much urgent, needed questions, because the faith and the confidence of the people who have entrusted you into office clearly is at an all low. And this is a very heartbreaking situation, a story to hear. A 33-year-old cut down over a senseless crime over a cell phone. And 2 years later, absolutely no justice. This is absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. All right? Mrs. Piper, please continue. But before you continue, Mrs. Piper, you mentioned about support. Okay? How has the family been kept informed about the process of the investigation? And I think I already know the answer, but forgive me, I still have to ask. How have the family been kept updated?
Um, Initially, like I said, they reached out when it was the time for the inquest. But apart from that, um, there was no other. And initially, the like I said, the first inspector I remember was Officer Horn, who reached out to me to gather information regarding my son, pick up stuff like his IDs and stuff like that. But after that, there has been no support from the police system. I was the one who always make the call, um, just trying to keep abreast of what was happening, trying to get information. Um, and after the inquest, it became very difficult for me to even reach um, persons. I was like on a wild goose chase.
Mrs. Piper, when you say reach persons
I mean, the
specifically,
police personnel who I thought would have been in a position to give me some update.
so you felt like you were sidelined,
Pretty much so, yes.
and that has been the case from then up until now.
Yes, pretty much.
Do you think there is a need for greater awareness in this case, for where the public is concerned?
In this case and in many cases, yes.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I didn't have a clue where to begin to seek information. Like I said, I reached out to the then commissioner's office trying to get an appointment. I was told my first point of contact should have been the prosecuting team. I did get on to one member from the prosecuting team trying to get to the lead prosecutor. They told me to check this number, call that number, call this number. And that was the case until I get on to the assistant commissioner in January of this year.
Do you feel like you have been failed where justice is concerned?
Yes, because like you said, given the fact that the coroner's inquest was concluded,
Yes.
I felt one step closer to justice after the end of the coroner's inquest. And I remember informing a couple of friends, we're one step closer to justice. So even me doing this, some persons were, why are you putting yourself through this again, knowing how it's going to have an effect on you emotionally and even health-wise?
Yes.
Let the court system do its course, because persons were of the opinion that the perpetrators or the suspects were already arrested, and we are just awaiting a court date until they understand now that no such arrests have yet been made. And this is why I am here. This is why I'm continuing this fight, so that we can get to that point, to get some sense of justice and closure.
All right. Mrs. Pipe, on that note, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. You're listening to Voice of the People.
Early childhood is marked by firsts. Your baby's first smile, first giggle, first words, or more likely, first babbles. But when those firsts are delayed or fail to happen again, to parents, it can be confusing and concerning. A big part of being a parent is watching your child grow and interact with the world around them. If your child shows signs of having difficulties with social interaction or communication,